close your eyes for a moment and listen. Even in what you might call silence, your brain is processing hundreds of sounds every second. Traffic in the distance, the hum of electronics, the settling of your house, the rhythm of your own breathing. Your unconscious mind never stops listening, never stops analyzing, never stops protecting you from potential threats in the darkness. This is why silence can actually keep you awake. Your brain evolved over millions of years in environments where true silence was dangerous, where the absence of ambient sound might mean a predator was stalking nearby. When your bedroom falls too quiet, your unconscious mind becomes hypervigilant, amplifying every tiny creak and rustle into a potential warning signal. This ancient survival mechanism, still alive in your neural architecture, keeps you teetering on the edge of wakefulness, unable to surrender to sleep. But there's a sound that speaks directly to this ancient guardian in your mind. White noise is not actually silence's opposite, it's something far more elegant. White noise contains every frequency of sound that human ears can detect, all playing simultaneously at equal intensity. Imagine every note on a piano played at once, every possible tone from the deepest bass to the highest treble, all blended into a continuous sonic blanket. This creates what scientists call a masking effect, where the constant, predictable sound drowns out those irregular noises that would otherwise jolt your unconscious mind into alertness. The story of how we discovered this begins not in a sleep laboratory, but in the unexpected observations of exhausted parents throughout history. For centuries, caregivers noticed that babies fell asleep more easily to the sound of rhythmic household noises, the whooshing of vacuum cleaners, the steady drone of fans, the white noise of running water. What these parents had stumbled upon was a fundamental truth about human neurology: our brains are pattern-seeking machines, and white noise provides the ultimate pattern, one so complete and unchanging that it allows other parts of our mind to finally rest. When white noise enters your ears, it travels as vibrations through your auditory system to a region deep in your brainstem called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This ancient part of your brain acts as a gatekeeper, deciding which sensory information deserves your conscious attention and which can be safely ignored. The RAS is why you can sleep through steady rainfall but wake instantly to the sound of your name being whispered. White noise, with its perfect consistency, signals to your RAS that the environment is stable and safe, allowing it to gradually lower its defenses and permit deeper stages of sleep to emerge. But here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Your unconscious mind doesn't just hear white noise, it synchronizes with it. Research using EEG brain scans has revealed that when people listen to white noise while falling asleep, their brainwave patterns begin to mirror the sound's consistency. The chaotic, rapid beta waves of waking consciousness gradually slow into the rolling alpha waves of relaxation, then descend further into the deep theta waves that characterize the threshold of sleep. White noise acts as a gentle guide, leading your brain's electrical activity down into these slower, more restful frequencies. This synchronization happens because of a phenomenon called neural entrainment. Your brain naturally tries to match its rhythms to repetitive external stimuli, the same way your foot might unconsciously tap along to music. With white noise, there's no specific rhythm to follow, but there is something even more powerful: absolute consistency. This consistency allows your brain to stop anticipating what comes next. When your unconscious mind no longer needs to predict and prepare for changing sounds, it can finally allocate its resources to the complex biological processes of falling asleep. And those processes are far more intricate than most people realize. As you drift toward sleep, your unconscious mind must coordinate the release of specific neurochemicals while simultaneously suppressing others. Adenosine, which has been building up in your brain throughout the day, needs to reach critical levels. Melatonin must be released from your pineal gland. Cortisol, the stress hormone, must decline. Meanwhile, the neurotransmitters that keep you alert, norepinephrine, serotonin, and histamine, must be actively inhibited. White noise supports this delicate neurochemical ballet by reducing the cognitive load on your brain, freeing up resources for these essential biological transitions. Perhaps most remarkably, white noise doesn't just help you fall asleep faster, it actively protects the architecture of your sleep throughout the night. Your sleep moves in cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes, progressing from light sleep through deep sleep and into REM dreaming before starting again. These cycles are fragile, especially the transitions between stages, when your brain is most vulnerable to awakening from external sounds. White noise acts as a sonic shield around these transitions, maintaining the masking effect even as your conscious mind dreams, ensuring that your unconscious guardian can rest easy while your body repairs itself and your memories consolidate in the dark. This is the beginning of your journey into understanding not just white noise, but the remarkable unconscious processes that govern every moment of your existence, asleep and awake. But let's step back for a moment and consider what your unconscious mind actually is. It's not a single thing, not one region of your brain tucked away in some hidden corner. Your unconscious is more like an iceberg, where the vast majority of your mental processing happens beneath the surface of awareness. Every second, your brain processes approximately 11 million bits of sensory information, but your conscious mind can only handle about 40 bits at a time. The rest, that staggering difference of nearly 11 million bits, is managed by your unconscious. This unconscious processing extends far beyond simple sensory filtering. While you sleep, your unconscious mind is the conductor of an elaborate orchestra of biological processes. Your breathing continues without thought, each inhalation and exhalation timed perfectly. Your heart beats in its steady rhythm, adjusting its pace based on the depth of your sleep stage. Your body temperature drops by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit, a carefully orchestrated cooling that actually helps trigger and maintain deeper sleep. Your immune system ramps up production of cytokines, proteins that fight infection and inflammation. All of this happens without any conscious effort, managed entirely by the brilliant automated systems of your unconscious mind. The relationship between sound and this unconscious orchestration is more profound than most people realize. There's a reason why cultures around the world have used repetitive sounds for meditation and trance states for thousands of years. Tibetan singing bowls, Aboriginal didgeridoos, shamanic drumming, all of these create patterns of sound that bypass conscious analysis and speak directly to deeper brain structures. White noise operates on this same principle, but instead of creating a rhythm, it creates something even more fundamental: acoustic equilibrium. Think of your auditory cortex as a vast landscape of neurons, each one tuned to respond to a specific frequency of sound. Some neurons fire when they detect low rumbles, others respond to high-pitched tones, and thousands more cover every frequency in between. In a quiet room with occasional random noises, this landscape lights up in unpredictable bursts, keeping your unconscious mind alert and scanning for patterns. But when white noise fills the environment, every single one of these neurons receives stimulation simultaneously and continuously. The entire landscape glows with uniform activation, and paradoxically, this complete activation creates a kind of neural silence. With every detector firing, none stands out, and your unconscious mind can finally stop searching for meaningful signals in the acoustic environment. This neural silence has cascading effects throughout your brain. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe that processes emotions and threat detection, begins to quiet its activity. The amygdala is intimately connected to your unconscious mind's survival functions, constantly evaluating your environment for potential dangers. When unexpected sounds occur during the night, your amygdala can trigger a cascade of arousal that brings you out of deep sleep, even if you don't fully wake. White noise essentially gives your amygdala permission to stand down, creating what researchers call a safe sonic environment that allows your emotional centers to rest alongside your body. Meanwhile, another remarkable process unfolds in your hippocampus, the seahorse-shaped structure that serves as your brain's memory consolidation center. During deep sleep stages, your hippocampus replays the experiences of your day, transferring important memories from temporary storage into long-term neural networks distributed across your cortex. This process requires tremendous neural energy and can be disrupted by arousing stimuli. Studies have shown that people who sleep with white noise show more robust patterns of memory consolidation compared to those who sleep in variable acoustic environments. Your unconscious mind, freed from constant environmental monitoring by the masking effect of white noise, can dedicate more resources to this essential work of organizing and storing your experiences. There's also a chemical story unfolding throughout your brain as white noise helps you sleep. The neurotransmitter GABA, or gamma-aminobutyric acid, is your brain's primary inhibitory chemical messenger. GABA's job is to slow down neural activity, to quiet the chatter of neurons and create the neural calm necessary for sleep. When you're stressed or your environment feels unpredictable, your brain reduces GABA production in favor of excitatory neurotransmitters that keep you alert. But consistent, predictable sensory input like white noise encourages your brain to shift this balance. GABA levels rise, particularly in brain regions associated with arousal and wakefulness, gently turning down the volume on consciousness itself. At the same time, your brain's production of adenosine reaches its peak influence. Adenosine is sometimes called the sleepiness molecule, building up in your brain from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep. It works by blocking receptors for excitatory neurotransmitters, essentially filling up the parking spaces that would otherwise be occupied by chemicals that keep you awake. Caffeine works by temporarily occupying these same receptors, which is why coffee makes you feel alert. But as the night progresses and white noise maintains its protective acoustic shield, adenosine can do its work uninterrupted, deepening your sleep with each passing cycle. Perhaps most intriguingly, white noise seems to enhance your brain's natural production of slow brain waves during deep sleep. These delta waves, oscillating at just 1 to 4 cycles per second, are the slowest brainwaves you produce. They're associated with the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep, when your body repairs tissues, builds bone and muscle, and strengthens your immune system. Research using polysomnography, the comprehensive brain monitoring done in sleep laboratories, has found that sleepers exposed to white noise spend more time in these deep delta wave stages and show higher amplitude delta waves, suggesting deeper, more restorative sleep overall. Your unconscious mind's relationship with sound goes back to the very beginning of your existence, long before you took your first breath. In the womb, you were surrounded by sound. The rhythmic whooshing of your mother's blood flow, the steady drumbeat of her heart, the muffled vibrations of her voice resonating through fluid and tissue. These sounds weren't just background noise, they were your first language, the acoustic environment that shaped your developing nervous system. Recordings made inside the womb reveal sound levels around 85 decibels, comparable to the volume of heavy traffic or a busy restaurant. It was never silent, and your brain never expected it to be. This prenatal acoustic experience leaves an imprint on your unconscious mind that lasts your entire life. It's why white noise machines often include settings that mimic womb sounds, and why these particular frequencies can trigger such profound relaxation responses even in adults. Your unconscious mind recognizes these patterns at a level deeper than memory, deeper than thought. It's a recognition that lives in your neural architecture itself, a remembrance written in the very structure of your developing brain during those crucial months before birth. But the influence of your unconscious mind on sleep extends far beyond simply processing sound. Consider the phenomenon of sleep inertia, that profound grogginess you feel when you first wake up, especially if you're woken from deep sleep. This isn't just tiredness, it's your unconscious mind slowly relinquishing control back to your conscious awareness. During sleep, your prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function, logical thinking, and conscious decision-making, significantly reduces its activity. Your unconscious systems take the helm, running the ship while your conscious captain rests. When you wake, especially suddenly, there's a lag time of up to 30 minutes before your prefrontal cortex fully comes back online. During this period, you're operating almost entirely on unconscious processes, which is why you might do things you don't remember or make decisions that seem bizarre in retrospect. White noise helps smooth these transitions between sleep stages and between sleep and waking by maintaining environmental consistency. Your unconscious mind, which never truly sleeps, tracks patterns in your environment even during the deepest sleep stages. When you wake naturally at the end of a sleep cycle, your unconscious mind has already been gradually preparing your conscious systems to come back online, gently raising activity in your prefrontal cortex and other regions needed for wakefulness. But jarring noises can force an emergency awakening, where your unconscious mind has to rapidly mobilize your conscious systems without proper preparation. This is why waking to a gentle alarm sound or naturally at the end of a cycle feels so different from being jolted awake by a sudden noise. White noise creates a consistent acoustic environment that allows your unconscious mind to manage these transitions more gracefully. There's also a fascinating phenomenon called first night effect that reveals how vigilant your unconscious mind remains even during sleep. Sleep researchers have long known that people sleep worse the first night in a new environment, even if the room is comfortable and quiet. Brain imaging studies have revealed why, on the first night in a new place, one hemisphere of your brain sleeps significantly lighter than the other, maintaining a higher level of vigilance. This asymmetric sleep pattern is seen in marine mammals like dolphins, who must keep half their brain awake to breathe while they rest, and in birds, who sleep with one eye open when they're in unfamiliar territory. Your unconscious mind retains this ancient adaptive mechanism, keeping partial watch until it has learned the acoustic and sensory signature of the new environment and deemed it safe. White noise can actually help reduce the first night effect by creating an acoustic environment that's familiar even when everything else is new. When you travel with a white noise machine or app, you're bringing a piece of acoustic consistency with you, giving your unconscious mind one less variable to monitor and evaluate. This is why many frequent travelers swear by white noise. It transforms every hotel room and unfamiliar bedroom into a sonically familiar space where their unconscious guardian can relax more quickly. The influence of your unconscious mind extends even into the content of your dreams. During REM sleep, when most vivid dreaming occurs, your conscious mind's logic centers are largely offline, but your unconscious processing is remarkably active. Your dreams are constructed by unconscious systems pulling together memories, emotions, sensory fragments, and symbolic representations in combinations that your conscious mind would never create. The sounds in your environment can be woven into this unconscious dream construction. Sirens become part of dream narratives, voices drift into dream conversations, music shapes dream emotions. White noise, with its lack of specific content, provides no material for this unconscious incorporation, allowing your dreams to be generated purely from internal processes rather than being constantly interrupted and redirected by external acoustic events. Your unconscious mind also maintains something called a sensory memory buffer, a brief recording of everything you sense that lasts just a few seconds before being discarded unless deemed important enough to transfer to conscious attention. For sound, this is called echoic memory, and it persists for about 3 to 4 seconds. This buffer allows your unconscious mind to catch things your conscious attention might have missed. It's why you can sometimes recall what someone said even if you weren't consciously listening at the moment they spoke. During sleep, this buffer continues operating, which means sounds that occur during the night are briefly held in unconscious processing, where they're evaluated for threat or significance before either being dismissed or triggering awakening. White noise fills this buffer with neutral, consistent information, essentially giving your unconscious mind nothing to worry about, nothing that requires escalation to conscious awareness. The temperature regulation your unconscious mind performs during sleep is also intimately connected to the acoustic environment. Your body's core temperature follows a circadian rhythm, dropping in the evening to signal bedtime and rising in the morning to promote wakefulness. This temperature drop is mediated by increased blood flow to your extremities, particularly your hands and feet, which act as radiators to dissipate heat. Stress and arousal, however, can override this process by triggering vasoconstriction, the narrowing of blood vessels that keeps warmth in your core. When unpredictable sounds trigger stress responses during the night, even subtle ones that don't fully wake you, they can interfere with this temperature regulation. White noise, by preventing these microarousals, allows your unconscious temperature regulation to proceed smoothly through the night, maintaining the optimal thermal environment for deep sleep. There's a particular kind of learning that happens exclusively during sleep, orchestrated entirely by your unconscious mind, and it requires the kind of uninterrupted neural processing that white noise helps protect. While you sleep, your brain doesn't just consolidate memories of facts and events, it extracts hidden patterns and rules from your experiences, a process called implicit learning. If you practice a musical instrument during the day, your sleep that night will involve your motor cortex replaying those finger movements hundreds of times, refining the neural pathways without any conscious effort. If you're learning a new language, your sleeping brain will be reorganizing linguistic connections, strengthening associations between words and meanings. This unconscious learning is so powerful that people often perform better on complex tasks after sleeping than they did at the end of their practice session the day before. But this overnight improvement only occurs when sleep architecture remains intact. Each time you're partially aroused from deep sleep or REM sleep by an unexpected sound, you interrupt these unconscious learning processes midstream. It's like stopping a computer program while it's writing the disk. The work doesn't just pause, it can be corrupted or lost entirely. Research has shown that people who sleep in noisy environments show significantly impaired overnight learning compared to those who sleep with white noise masking those disturbances. Your unconscious mind needs extended, uninterrupted periods in specific sleep stages to complete its behind-the-scenes cognitive work. The relationship between your unconscious mind and chronic stress reveals another way white noise serves a protective function. When you experience ongoing stress, your body maintains elevated levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone. Cortisol follows a natural daily rhythm, high in the morning to help you wake up and declining through the day to its lowest point during the night. But chronic stress flattens this curve, keeping cortisol elevated even during hours when it should be minimal. Elevated nighttime cortisol interferes with sleep in multiple ways. It makes falling asleep harder, reduces time spent in deep sleep, and increases nighttime awakenings. Your unconscious mind interprets high cortisol as a signal that you're in danger, making it resistant to fully powering down into deep sleep. White noise doesn't directly lower cortisol levels, but by creating a predictable, safe acoustic environment, it removes one source of unconscious vigilance. Your unconscious mind allocates a certain amount of resources to environmental monitoring during sleep. When the environment is variable and unpredictable, more resources go to this monitoring, which means higher arousal states and less ability to suppress cortisol production. When white noise makes the environment predictable, your unconscious mind can reduce these monitoring resources, allowing the natural nighttime cortisol decline to proceed more normally. Your unconscious mind also maintains something remarkable during sleep, a semantic network that continues processing language and meaning even when you're completely unconscious. Researchers have discovered this by presenting sleeping people with word pairs and measuring their brain responses. Even during deep sleep, when there's no possibility of conscious awareness, the brain shows different electrical patterns when hearing semantically related words like doctor and nurse compared to unrelated words. Your unconscious linguistic processing continues running through the night, which is why loud conversations or television dialogue can disturb sleep even when simpler sounds might not. These semantic sounds demand unconscious processing resources, pulling your brain toward wakefulness. White noise, being semantically empty, makes no such demands on your sleeping linguistic systems. There's also a phenomenon called memory reactivation that your unconscious mind performs during sleep, and it's far more sophisticated than simple replay. When you experience something during the day, particularly something emotionally significant or important to remember, your brain tags these memories with markers. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, your hippocampus communicates with your cortex in a dialogue of neural firing patterns. The hippocampus sends out signals that reactivate specific memories, and the cortex responds by integrating these memories into existing knowledge structures. This back and forth happens thousands of times a night, gradually transferring memories from fragile temporary storage into permanent neural networks distributed across your brain. Each interruption of deep sleep disrupts this dialogue, potentially interfering with which memories get consolidated and which fade away. The autonomic nervous system, which your unconscious mind controls completely, operates in two modes: sympathetic, which mobilizes your body for action, and parasympathetic, which promotes rest and restoration. During healthy sleep, you should be predominantly in parasympathetic mode, with your heart rate slowing, blood pressure dropping, and digestion activating. But environmental unpredictability can trigger brief sympathetic activations throughout the night, moments where your unconscious mind detects something potentially threatening and prepares your body for action. These sympathetic bursts, even if they don't wake you, reduce sleep quality and prevent the full restorative benefits of parasympathetic dominance. They're so brief you'd never consciously notice them, but their cumulative effect over a night can leave you feeling unrefreshed despite spending adequate time in bed. White noise helps maintain parasympathetic dominance by reducing the triggers for these sympathetic activations. Think of it as giving your unconscious nervous system permission to truly rest. The acoustic predictability signals safety at the most fundamental level of your nervous system, allowing your unconscious mind to keep your body in the restorative mode rather than constantly toggling between rest and vigilance. Your unconscious mind also tracks statistical regularities in your environment with remarkable precision, a process called statistical learning. Over time, it builds probabilistic models of what sounds typically occur in your sleeping environment, at what times, and in what combinations. A distant train that passes at the same time every night becomes part of your unconscious environmental model, expected and therefore less arousing. But novel sounds, those that violate your unconscious predictions, trigger orienting responses even during sleep. White noise essentially provides a stable statistical structure that requires no learning and generates no prediction errors. It's the same every second of every night, asking nothing of your unconscious predictive systems. The phenomenon of sleep spindles reveals another layer of your unconscious mind's nocturnal activity. These are brief bursts of brain activity, lasting just a second or two, that occur during stage 2 sleep. They appear on EEG recordings as distinctive wave patterns that look like spindles or yarn being wound. Your unconscious mind generates these spindles at a rate of roughly 1,000 per night, and they serve multiple critical functions. Sleep spindles act as a protective gate, actively inhibiting the processing of external sensory information to prevent it from waking you. They're also intimately involved in transferring memories from your hippocampus to your cortex, with research showing that people who produce more sleep spindles show better memory consolidation and higher fluid intelligence. What's particularly fascinating is that sleep spindles appear to be generated in response to environmental sounds. When your sleeping brain detects a sound, it can respond in one of two ways: trigger an awakening, or generate a sleep spindle to suppress the arousal and maintain sleep. The decision between these responses happens entirely at the unconscious level, with your sleeping brain evaluating the sound's potential significance in milliseconds. White noise, by providing constant auditory stimulation without meaningful content, seems to prime your brain to produce more sleep spindles. It's as if the presence of white noise keeps your unconscious protective mechanisms engaged and ready, allowing your brain to more quickly generate spindles in response to any disruptive sounds that might break through the masking effect. Your unconscious mind also regulates something called the glymphatic system during sleep, a recently discovered waste clearance system in your brain that's dramatically more active when you're unconscious. During your waking hours, your brain cells are tightly packed together, but during deep sleep, they physically shrink by about 60%, opening up spaces between them. Cerebrospinal fluid then flows through these spaces like a rising tide, flushing out metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day, including beta-amyloid proteins that have been linked to Alzheimer's disease. This cleaning process is so energy-intensive that it can only happen when your conscious mind is offline and those energy resources can be redirected. The glymphatic system's effectiveness depends on maintaining extended periods of deep sleep. Each time you're aroused from deep sleep, even slightly, this cleaning process is disrupted. The cellular shrinkage reverses, the spaces close, and the waste clearance stops until you return to deep sleep. Over time, poor sleep quality and frequent disruptions can lead to accumulation of these toxic proteins, which may be one reason why chronic sleep deprivation is associated with increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases. White noise, by protecting the continuity of your deep sleep stages, helps ensure that your unconscious mind can complete this essential neural housekeeping. There's also a remarkable synchronization that occurs between different brain regions during sleep, orchestrated entirely by unconscious processes. Your cortex generates slow waves during deep sleep, massive coordinated oscillations where millions of neurons fire in synchrony. These slow waves, rolling across your cortex like ocean swells, create windows of opportunity during which your hippocampus can transmit memories to long-term storage. The timing has to be precise, with hippocampal signals arriving during specific phases of the cortical slow wave for successful memory transfer. This coordination happens without any conscious control, a ballet of neural timing performed by unconscious circuits in your sleeping brain. Research has shown that disruptions to sleep, even minor ones that don't cause full awakening, can desynchronize these brain regions, causing the hippocampus and cortex to fall out of phase with each other. When this happens, memory consolidation becomes less efficient, and you may find that things you learned yesterday don't stick as well as they should. White noise maintains the environmental stability that allows these delicate neural synchronizations to persist undisturbed through the night. Your unconscious breathing patterns during sleep also tell a story of how deeply your mind has released its grip on waking control. When you're awake, your breathing is partly under voluntary control. You can hold your breath, breathe faster or slower, take deep breaths at will. But during sleep, breathing becomes entirely automatic, controlled by unconscious centers in your brainstem that respond to blood oxygen and carbon dioxide levels. The pattern changes too, becoming slower and more regular during non-REM sleep, then more variable during REM sleep when your dreams are most vivid. These breathing changes are so characteristic of different sleep stages that researchers can often identify which stage someone is in just by watching them breathe. What's interesting is that stress and environmental unpredictability can affect even these unconscious breathing patterns. When your unconscious mind detects environmental instability, it may maintain breathing at a slightly faster, more wakeful rate even during sleep, a subtle sign of maintained vigilance. This faster breathing prevents you from reaching the slowest, deepest breathing patterns that coincide with the most restorative sleep stages. White noise, by signaling environmental stability to your unconscious mind, allows your breathing to slow to its deepest, most restful pace. The sense of hearing itself never truly sleeps, even when you're in the deepest stages of unconsciousness. Your cochlea, the spiral structure in your inner ear that converts sound waves into neural signals, continues operating at full capacity all night long. Every sound that reaches your ear is converted into electrical signals and sent to your auditory cortex for processing. What changes during sleep is not whether sounds are detected, but how they're processed and responded to. Your unconscious mind applies what researchers call a sensory gating mechanism, filtering incoming sounds based on their potential significance before deciding whether to escalate them to the level that would trigger awakening. This gating mechanism is incredibly sophisticated, able to distinguish between sounds that are merely loud and sounds that are personally relevant. You might sleep through traffic noise that's much louder than a whispered calling of your name, because your unconscious mind has learned which sounds carry meaning and which don't. Parents famously develop the ability to sleep through thunderstorms but wake instantly to their baby's cry, evidence of this unconscious prioritization system. White noise helps this gating mechanism work more efficiently by providing a baseline against which other sounds can be more easily evaluated and typically dismissed as non-threatening. The architecture of sleep itself is a masterpiece of unconscious design, refined over millions of years of evolution. Your 90-minute sleep cycles aren't arbitrary, they reflect the optimal timing for different types of neural processing. The cycle begins with light sleep, stage 1, where you drift in and out of consciousness, your brain waves slowing but still responsive to the environment. Then you descend into stage 2, where those protective sleep spindles begin appearing, and your body temperature drops further. Next comes stage 3, deep slow-wave sleep, where your brain produces those massive delta waves and performs its most intensive restoration work. Finally, you rise back up into REM sleep, where your brain becomes nearly as active as during waking, your eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids, and your most vivid dreams unfold. What's remarkable is how your unconscious mind navigates these transitions without any conscious input. The shift from one stage to another involves coordinated changes in neurotransmitter levels, alterations in brainwave patterns, modifications to heart rate and breathing, and adjustments to muscle tone. During REM sleep, your unconscious mind actually paralyzes your voluntary muscles, a safety mechanism that prevents you from acting out your dreams. This paralysis, called REM atonia, is so complete that if you become conscious during it, a phenomenon called sleep paralysis, you'll find yourself temporarily unable to move despite being awake. Your unconscious mind maintains this paralysis until the REM period ends and you transition to the next sleep cycle. Each sleep cycle serves different purposes, and your unconscious mind adjusts the proportion of time spent in each stage based on your current needs. Early in the night, you spend more time in deep slow-wave sleep, prioritizing physical restoration and metabolic recovery. As the night progresses, your REM periods become longer and more frequent, emphasizing memory consolidation and emotional processing. Your unconscious mind is essentially running a sophisticated resource allocation algorithm, distributing your sleeping hours among different types of restorative processes based on signals from your body and brain about what's most needed. White noise protects this delicate architecture by maintaining environmental consistency across all these transitions. The moments between sleep stages are particularly vulnerable, as your brain shifts gears from one type of processing to another. An unexpected sound during one of these transitions can jolt you fully awake, forcing you to start a new cycle from the beginning and potentially missing out on the specific benefits that stage would have provided. With white noise masking environmental irregularities, your unconscious mind can smoothly navigate between stages, ensuring you receive the full spectrum of sleep's restorative benefits. Your unconscious mind also maintains a circadian clock, a biological timekeeper located in a tiny region of your hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. This cluster of just 20,000 neurons acts as your body's master clock, orchestrating the timing of countless biological processes over the 24-hour day. The SCN receives direct input from specialized cells in your retina that detect light levels, which is how it stays synchronized with the external day-night cycle. But even without any external time cues, completely isolated in darkness, your SCN would continue ticking away with remarkable precision, maintaining rhythms in hormone release, body temperature, alertness, and sleep drive. This circadian system operates entirely at the unconscious level. You never consciously think about releasing melatonin at nightfall or cortisol before dawn. Your SCN handles these orchestrations automatically. But this system can be disrupted by inconsistent sleep schedules, shift work, or jet lag, conditions where your unconscious clock becomes desynchronized with your sleep-wake behavior. When this happens, you might be trying to sleep when your SCN thinks it should be daytime, and your unconscious clock actively works against your conscious desire to sleep, keeping body temperature elevated, suppressing melatonin, and maintaining alertness. White noise can't override your circadian clock, but it can help mitigate some of the sleep difficulties that occur when your clock and your schedule are misaligned. Even when your unconscious circadian drive is pushing toward wakefulness, white noise can reduce the environmental stimuli that might otherwise amplify that wakefulness, making it easier to obtain at least some restorative sleep during circadian inappropriate hours. This is why shift workers and frequent travelers often find white noise particularly helpful. The emotional processing that occurs during sleep represents another crucial function of your unconscious mind. During REM sleep, your brain appears to be working through emotional experiences from recent days, reactivating memories with emotional content but in a neurochemical environment that's very different from waking. Specifically, during REM sleep, levels of norepinephrine, a stress-related neurotransmitter, drop to nearly zero. This allows you to revisit emotional memories without experiencing the full stress response they might trigger while awake. It's as if your unconscious mind is performing emotional alchemy, separating the factual content of memories from their emotional charge, allowing you to remember what happened without being overwhelmed by how it felt. Research has shown that people who are deprived of REM sleep show increased emotional reactivity and difficulty regulating their emotions the next day. They're more likely to perceive neutral faces as threatening and to overreact to minor frustrations. Your unconscious emotional processing during REM sleep is essential for maintaining psychological equilibrium. When environmental disruptions fragment your REM sleep, preventing these extended periods of emotional processing, you may wake feeling not just physically tired but emotionally raw, more vulnerable to stress and less resilient in the face of challenges. The muscle twitches and movements you might notice as you're falling asleep, called hypnic jerks, reveal another aspect of unconscious motor control during sleep transitions. As your motor cortex powers down and your muscles relax, there can be brief moments of miscommunication where your unconscious motor control systems generate sudden movements. Some researchers believe these jerks might be an evolutionary holdover from our primate ancestors, whose unconscious minds may have interpreted the sensation of muscles relaxing as the feeling of falling from a tree branch, triggering a protective reflex to grab hold. Whether or not this explanation is accurate, these hypnic jerks demonstrate that even the simple act of falling asleep involves complex negotiations between different unconscious systems as control shifts from waking motor programs to sleep paralysis. Your unconscious mind's relationship with pain changes dramatically during sleep, revealing a sophisticated pain modulation system that operates below conscious awareness. During deep sleep, your pain threshold increases significantly, you become less responsive to painful stimuli, and chronic pain sufferers often report that their pain feels less severe during sleep. This isn't because the pain signals stop reaching your brain, they still arrive through the same neural pathways. Rather, your unconscious mind actively suppresses pain processing during sleep, redirecting attention and resources away from pain perception to allow your body to rest and repair. This unconscious pain modulation depends on maintaining stable, uninterrupted sleep stages. When sleep is fragmented by environmental disturbances, this pain suppression system doesn't function as effectively, which is one reason why people with insomnia often develop heightened pain sensitivity. White noise supports this unconscious pain modulation by protecting sleep continuity. For people managing chronic pain conditions, the difference between interrupted and consolidated sleep can significantly impact their pain experience the following day. By preventing the acoustic disruptions that fragment sleep, white noise helps maintain the conditions under which your unconscious mind can most effectively dampen pain signals. There's also a fascinating process called synaptic homeostasis that your unconscious mind performs during sleep. Throughout your waking hours, as you learn and experience new things, your brain strengthens the connections between neurons, building up synaptic weights that encode memories and skills. But this process of continual strengthening can't go on indefinitely. Eventually your synapses would become saturated, unable to encode new information. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, your unconscious mind systematically weakens synapses across your brain, scaling them down proportionally while preserving their relative strengths. This is called synaptic downscaling, and it's essential for maintaining your brain's capacity to learn. What makes this process remarkable is its selectivity. Your unconscious mind doesn't simply weaken all synapses equally. Instead, it preserves the connections that represent important information while pruning away the synaptic changes associated with trivial or redundant experiences. This unconscious editing process is what allows you to wake up with a clearer sense of what mattered from the previous day, with irrelevant details faded and significant patterns emphasized. When sleep is disrupted, this editing process is compromised, and you may find your mind cluttered with mental noise, unable to distinguish signal from static as effectively. Your unconscious immune system also follows a sleep-dependent rhythm, with certain immune functions dramatically enhanced during sleep. Natural killer cells, a crucial part of your immune system's defense against viruses and cancer cells, increase their activity during sleep. Inflammatory cytokines, proteins that coordinate immune responses, are released in higher concentrations at night. Your body temperature's circadian drop during sleep actually creates optimal conditions for certain immune processes. This enhancement of immune function during sleep is so pronounced that even modest sleep deprivation can measurably reduce immune effectiveness, making you more susceptible to infections. The communication between your unconscious immune system and your sleep regulatory systems is bidirectional. When you're fighting an infection, immune signaling molecules cross into your brain and interact with sleep-promoting circuits, making you feel sleepy. This is why illness makes you want to sleep more. Your unconscious immune system is essentially commandeering your sleep systems to create the conditions it needs for maximum defensive effectiveness. White noise, by promoting more consolidated and efficient sleep, supports these unconscious immune processes, helping your body mount more effective defenses against pathogens. Your unconscious mind also maintains what's called proprioceptive awareness during sleep, your sense of where your body is in space and how your limbs are positioned. Even in the deepest sleep, your unconscious mind tracks your body's position and prevents you from rolling out of bed or assuming positions that might restrict blood flow or breathing. This unconscious body monitoring operates continuously, making micro-adjustments to your sleeping posture throughout the night. You might shift positions dozens of times during sleep without any conscious awareness, each movement orchestrated by unconscious systems responding to signals of discomfort, restricted circulation, or suboptimal positioning. Interestingly, this unconscious proprioceptive system can be disrupted by anxiety or stress. When your unconscious mind is in a state of heightened vigilance due to environmental unpredictability, it may restrict the natural movements you'd normally make during sleep, keeping muscles slightly tensed and preventing the full relaxation that allows optimal sleep posture adjustments. People often wake with unexplained muscle tension or soreness, the result of this unconscious restriction of movement. White noise, by reducing unconscious vigilance, allows your proprioceptive systems to function more naturally, facilitating the spontaneous postural adjustments that prevent discomfort and support restorative sleep. The olfactory system, your sense of smell, operates differently during sleep than your other senses, revealing another layer of unconscious processing. While you maintain some ability to process sounds, touches, and visual stimuli during sleep, your response to odors becomes significantly dampened. Your unconscious mind essentially turns down the volume on smell processing during sleep, even though your olfactory receptors continue detecting odor molecules. This makes evolutionary sense, since most dangerous nighttime threats would be detected through sound or touch rather than smell. However, extremely intense odors, particularly those associated with danger like smoke, can still trigger awakening, showing that your unconscious mind maintains a minimal level of olfactory monitoring for true emergencies. This selective dampening of sensory processing during sleep demonstrates how your unconscious mind doesn't simply shut down during sleep but rather reconfigures itself, maintaining vigilance where it matters most while freeing resources for restorative processes. White noise essentially occupies the auditory channel, the sense that remains most active during sleep, with benign information, allowing your unconscious monitoring systems to relax their guard. There's also a phenomenon called local sleep that reveals how different parts of your brain can be in different states of consciousness simultaneously. Sleep researchers have discovered that during extended periods of sleep deprivation, or even during normal sleep under certain conditions, some regions of your brain can be asleep while others remain awake. This might manifest as decreased responsiveness in specific brain areas even though you're ostensibly awake, or conversely, as islands of waking activity in specific regions during sleep. Your unconscious mind manages this patchwork of sleep and wakefulness across different brain regions, and white noise may help synchronize these regions into more unified sleep states by providing consistent sensory input that doesn't demand region-specific processing. The concept of sleep pressure reveals another sophisticated unconscious system that governs your need for sleep. From the moment you wake up, a chemical called adenosine begins accumulating in your brain, building up as a byproduct of neural activity and energy consumption. This adenosine accumulation creates an increasing pressure to sleep, a mounting biological debt that your unconscious mind tracks with precision. The longer you stay awake, the higher this pressure builds, until it becomes nearly irresistible. Your unconscious mind doesn't just passively track this pressure, it actively translates it into the subjective feeling of sleepiness, gradually making wakefulness more difficult and sleep more appealing as adenosine levels rise. What's particularly elegant about this system is how it interacts with your circadian clock to create optimal sleep timing. Your circadian system generates a wake-promoting signal that peaks in the early evening, and this signal temporarily masks the accumulating sleep pressure, giving you a second wind even after being awake all day. But as night deepens and your circadian wake drive declines, the accumulated adenosine pressure is finally revealed in full force, creating the perfect biological conditions for sleep. Your unconscious mind orchestrates this complex interaction between homeostatic sleep pressure and circadian timing completely outside conscious awareness. White noise doesn't affect adenosine accumulation directly, but it does influence how effectively you can respond to sleep pressure when it builds. Even with high adenosine levels creating strong biological pressure to sleep, environmental unpredictability can keep your unconscious vigilance systems active, creating a frustrating state where you feel desperately tired but cannot fall asleep. White noise removes this environmental barrier, allowing the accumulated sleep pressure to express itself naturally in the transition to sleep. Your unconscious mind also performs what might be called threat assessment maintenance during sleep, continuously evaluating whether the current state of unconsciousness is safe to maintain. This assessment draws on multiple streams of information: acoustic signals from your environment, proprioceptive feedback from your body position, internal signals about your physiological state, and even the content of your dreams. When any of these information streams suggests potential danger, your unconscious mind can initiate awakening within milliseconds. This is why certain dream content can wake you, why physical discomfort rouses you, and why unexpected sounds break through sleep even when louder but predictable sounds don't. This threat assessment operates on a threshold system, where your unconscious mind essentially asks, does the current situation warrant the metabolic cost and vulnerability disruption of waking up? White noise lowers the acoustic component of this threat assessment, essentially telling your unconscious mind that the sonic environment poses no threat and requires no intervention. This allows your unconscious threat assessment to maintain a higher threshold for awakening, meaning you sleep more deeply and resist disturbance more effectively. The relationship between breathing and consciousness during sleep reveals another remarkable unconscious process. During wakefulness, breathing can be controlled both consciously and unconsciously. You can deliberately hold your breath or breathe rapidly, but if you stop consciously controlling it, unconscious centers in your brainstem seamlessly take over. During sleep, breathing becomes purely automatic, controlled by neurons in the medulla oblongata that respond to chemical signals about oxygen and carbon dioxide levels in your blood. But during REM sleep, this automatic control becomes less stable. Breathing becomes irregular and more variable, sometimes even pausing briefly in ways that would never happen during waking or non-REM sleep. This breathing instability during REM sleep is connected to the intense neural activity occurring during dreams. Your unconscious mind, engaged in the vivid simulation of dream experiences, seems to partially deprioritize the regulation of breathing in favor of the dream construction process. For most people, this creates no problems, but for those with certain vulnerabilities, it can lead to sleep-disordered breathing. The point is that even something as fundamental as breathing reflects the shifting priorities of your unconscious mind across different sleep stages, with different unconscious systems taking precedence at different times. Your unconscious mind also maintains what researchers call episodic future thinking during sleep, a form of mental simulation where your brain spontaneously generates scenarios of possible future events. This isn't the same as ordinary dreaming. Even during non-REM sleep, when you're not having vivid narrative dreams, your unconscious mind appears to be running simulations, exploring possible futures and their implications. Brain imaging studies show that regions involved in planning and future-oriented thought remain active during certain sleep stages, suggesting your unconscious mind is using the downtime of sleep to play out various scenarios and prepare responses. This unconscious future simulation may be one way your brain processes uncertainty and prepares for challenges. When you go to sleep worried about a presentation or difficult conversation, your unconscious mind may spend part of the night running through variations of that scenario, testing different approaches and responses. Sometimes this results in waking with unexpected clarity or solutions, the famous phenomenon of sleeping on it. But this unconscious problem-solving requires stable sleep architecture. If environmental disturbances constantly interrupt your sleep, these unconscious simulations are fragmented and less effective. The phenomenon of dream incorporation demonstrates how your unconscious mind weaves environmental stimuli into dream narratives. A ringing phone becomes a church bell in your dream. The pressure of a full bladder becomes a dream about searching for a bathroom. Your unconscious mind is remarkably creative in incorporating external and internal stimuli into ongoing dream content, apparently in an effort to maintain sleep continuity. Rather than allowing a stimulus to wake you, your unconscious mind tries to explain it within the logic of the dream, allowing you to remain asleep. However, this incorporation has limits. If a stimulus is too intense, too unexpected, or too meaningful, your unconscious mind cannot successfully weave it into the dream and must initiate awakening instead. White noise's predictability makes it particularly easy for your unconscious mind to ignore or incorporate. If it appears in dreams at all, it might manifest as background atmospheric sounds, wind, waves, or rain, natural soundscapes that fit seamlessly into dream environments without demanding attention or disrupting the dream's narrative flow. Your unconscious mind's ability to learn and remember extends even to the acoustic environment itself, through a process called habituation. When you first encounter a new sound in your environment, perhaps a neighbor's wind chimes or a distant highway, your unconscious mind orients strongly toward it, evaluating it for threat potential and significance. But night after night, as you encounter the same sound without any negative consequences, your unconscious mind gradually learns to ignore it. The neural response to that sound diminishes, requiring fewer resources to process and generating less arousal. This habituation is a form of unconscious learning, your brain physically changing its response patterns based on repeated experience. Interestingly, habituation is specific to particular sounds and contexts. You might habituate completely to your own refrigerator's hum but be awakened by an identical sound in a hotel room, because your unconscious mind recognizes it as unexpected in that context. This context sensitivity demonstrates the sophistication of unconscious learning. Your brain isn't just learning to ignore specific acoustic signatures, it's building complex contextual models of what sounds belong where. White noise bypasses the need for this gradual habituation process entirely. Because it contains no specific acoustic features, there's nothing to habituate to, it's immediately neutral and non-arousing from the first night you use it. The relationship between sleep and metabolic regulation reveals another crucial unconscious system. During sleep, particularly during deep slow-wave sleep, your body's sensitivity to insulin increases significantly. This enhanced insulin sensitivity allows your cells to more efficiently take up glucose from your bloodstream and store it or use it for energy. Your unconscious metabolic control systems use the sleep period to recalibrate glucose regulation, essentially resetting your metabolic baseline for the coming day. This is why sleep deprivation is so strongly linked to metabolic dysfunction, including increased risk of type 2 diabetes and obesity. When sleep is chronically disrupted, this unconscious metabolic recalibration can't occur properly. Your unconscious mind also regulates hunger hormones according to sleep patterns. During adequate, quality sleep, your body maintains appropriate levels of leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, and ghrelin, the hormone that signals hunger. But sleep deprivation causes leptin levels to drop and ghrelin levels to rise, creating a hormonal environment that promotes overeating. This isn't a conscious decision to eat more when you're tired, it's your unconscious metabolic systems responding to perceived energy crisis by altering your appetite signals. White noise, by supporting more consolidated and restorative sleep, helps maintain proper unconscious regulation of these metabolic hormones. There's also a fascinating connection between sleep and creativity that operates through unconscious associative processes. During REM sleep, when your prefrontal cortex's logical constraints are relaxed, your unconscious mind makes associations between concepts that would never be linked during waking thought. This is why creative breakthroughs so often occur after sleep. Your unconscious mind has been exploring unusual combinations and connections, sometimes arriving at insights that elude conscious analysis. Studies have shown that people are better at solving problems requiring creative insight after sleeping, particularly after REM-rich sleep, compared to spending the same amount of time awake. This unconscious creative processing depends on the brain entering specific states where logical constraints are loosened but cognitive systems remain active. These states are fragile and can be disrupted by environmental disturbances that push the brain toward either deeper unconsciousness or waking alertness. White noise helps maintain the conditions where this unconscious creativity can flourish, protecting the delicate balance of REM sleep where your mind is active enough to make connections but unconstrained enough to make unusual ones. Your unconscious mind also maintains something called temporal integration during sleep, your sense of time's passage and the sequencing of events. Even though you're not consciously aware of time passing while you sleep, your unconscious mind continues tracking duration and sequence. This is how you can sometimes wake moments before your alarm. Your unconscious mind has learned the typical duration of your sleep and anticipated the morning awakening. It's also how you can have dreams that seem to unfold over hours but actually occur in minutes. Your unconscious time perception operates differently during sleep, expanding and compressing subjective duration in ways that would be impossible during waking consciousness. This unconscious time tracking also helps you maintain sleep across the night despite the cyclical nature of sleep stages. As you rise from deep sleep toward lighter stages, your unconscious mind evaluates whether it's appropriate to wake based on how much time has passed, what stage you're in, and external cues like light levels. When this timing system works well, you wake naturally at the end of a sleep cycle, feeling refreshed. When it's disrupted, you might be jolted awake mid-cycle, leaving you groggy and disoriented. White noise provides temporal consistency that supports this unconscious time tracking, creating a stable acoustic backdrop against which your unconscious mind can more accurately gauge the passage of night. The vocal cords themselves undergo changes during sleep that reflect unconscious regulatory processes. During waking hours, your larynx maintains a certain level of muscle tone, keeping your vocal cords positioned for potential speech. But during sleep, particularly during deep non-REM sleep, this muscle tone decreases significantly. This relaxation is part of the general reduction in muscle tension that characterizes deep sleep, but it has specific consequences for breathing and sound production. It's why some people snore. The relaxed tissues of the throat vibrate as air passes through during sleep. Your unconscious mind monitors this airway patency throughout the night, making micro-adjustments to head position and muscle tone to maintain adequate breathing, another invisible task performed entirely outside awareness. The connection between sleep and emotional regulation extends beyond just REM sleep processing. During all stages of sleep, your unconscious mind is recalibrating the sensitivity of emotional response systems. The amygdala, that threat detection center we discussed earlier, becomes less reactive after good sleep, requiring stronger stimuli to trigger emotional responses. Conversely, sleep deprivation increases amygdala reactivity, making you more emotionally volatile and more likely to perceive threats where none exist. Your prefrontal cortex's ability to regulate emotional responses is also restored during sleep, strengthening the top-down control that allows you to respond to emotional situations thoughtfully rather than reactively. This unconscious emotional recalibration is essential for psychological health and emotional stability. As we near the end of this journey through the science of white noise and the unconscious mind, it's worth reflecting on the profound nature of what happens every time you fall asleep. You are, in a very real sense, temporarily relinquishing your conscious self to the care of unconscious systems that evolved over hundreds of millions of years. Every night, you perform an act of trust, allowing your conscious awareness to dissolve while ancient, automatic processes take over the essential work of keeping you alive and restoring your body and mind. The pineal gland, a tiny pine cone-shaped structure deep in your brain, serves as the gateway to this nightly transformation. As darkness falls and light no longer reaches your retinas, your pineal gland begins releasing melatonin into your bloodstream. This isn't just a sleep-inducing hormone, it's a chemical messenger that signals to every cell in your body that night has arrived and it's time to shift into nocturnal mode. Your unconscious mind responds to this melatonin signal by initiating a cascade of changes, dropping your core body temperature, shifting your metabolism, reducing cortisol production, and priming your brain for the transition to sleep. The elegance of this system is remarkable. A single chemical messenger, released by an unconscious gland in response to environmental light levels, coordinates changes across your entire physiology. White noise supports this melatonin-driven transition by removing the acoustic unpredictability that might otherwise keep your unconscious vigilance systems on alert despite melatonin's sedating signals. Even with high melatonin levels telling your body it's time to sleep, a brain that perceives environmental threat will resist the transition. White noise essentially gives your unconscious mind permission to respond fully to melatonin's sleep-promoting effects. Your unconscious mind also maintains what might be called a sleep history, a running account of your recent sleep quality and quantity that influences your current sleep drive. This isn't a conscious memory of how you've been sleeping, rather, it's encoded in the balance of neurochemicals, the sensitivity of sleep-promoting circuits, and the accumulated adenosine levels in your brain. If you've been sleeping poorly for several nights, your unconscious sleep history creates a heightened drive for deep, restorative sleep, sometimes called rebound sleep. Conversely, if you've been sleeping very well, your unconscious sleep systems may require less sleep or produce lighter sleep, knowing that restoration needs have been adequately met. This sleep history system demonstrates the sophisticated self-regulation of unconscious processes. Your brain isn't following a rigid program of sleeping exactly 8 hours every night regardless of circumstances. Instead, it's flexibly adjusting sleep need based on ongoing assessment of how well restoration is proceeding, another invisible calculation happening entirely outside conscious awareness. White noise doesn't change this fundamental sleep drive, but it does allow your unconscious systems to more effectively satisfy that drive when it's present. There's also an intriguing relationship between sleep and the consolidation of procedural memories, the unconscious knowledge of how to do things. When you learn a physical skill, like playing a musical instrument or a sport, the initial learning involves conscious attention and effort. But over time, these skills become automatic, moving from conscious control to unconscious execution. Sleep, particularly stage 2 sleep with its abundant sleep spindles, appears crucial for this transfer from conscious to unconscious knowledge. During sleep, your motor cortex replays the movements you practiced during the day, and with each replay, the neural pathways become more efficient and more automatic. This is why musicians, athletes, and surgeons all benefit from sleep after practice. Their unconscious minds are literally rewiring themselves during sleep, taking consciously learned movements and encoding them into unconscious motor programs that can be executed with speed and precision. When this sleep-dependent consolidation is disrupted by environmental disturbances, the transfer from conscious to unconscious skill execution becomes less efficient, and performance improvements are diminished. Your unconscious mind also performs what researchers call memory triage during sleep, deciding which experiences from the day are worth keeping and which can be safely forgotten. This isn't random. Experiences that carry emotional weight, that are rehearsed multiple times, or that fit into existing knowledge structures are preferentially consolidated, while trivial or redundant information is allowed to fade. This unconscious editing is essential. If you remembered every moment of every day with equal clarity, your memory systems would quickly become overwhelmed with irrelevant details. Your sleeping brain is essentially curating your personal history, strengthening the signal and letting the noise decay. The quality of this memory triage depends on achieving sufficient time in the sleep stages where consolidation occurs. Fragmented sleep may result in consolidation of less important memories while important ones are neglected, simply because the consolidation processes were interrupted before they could work through the full prioritized queue. White noise, by protecting sleep architecture, helps ensure that your unconscious memory triage proceeds in proper order, preserving what matters most. As we come to the close of these first 100 facts, consider this: the simple act of playing white noise while you sleep is not just masking external sounds. It's supporting dozens of intricate unconscious processes that govern your health, your learning, your emotions, your creativity, and your very consciousness. Every night, your unconscious mind performs miracles of biological coordination, chemical regulation, neural reorganization, and metabolic restoration. White noise simply provides the acoustic conditions under which these ancient, automatic processes can unfold as evolution designed them to, uninterrupted and complete. Your unconscious mind has been keeping you alive and restoring you every night of your life, long before you knew anything about neuroscience or sleep stages or delta waves. It will continue doing so tonight and every night to come. White noise is just a tool, a way of working with your unconscious systems rather than against them, recognizing that the guardian that never sleeps works best when the environment is stable, predictable, and safe. In providing that stable sonic environment, white noise honors the profound intelligence of unconscious processes that have been refined across millions of years of evolution, processes that know, better than your conscious mind ever could, exactly what your body and brain need to emerge restored, refreshed, and ready for whatever tomorrow brings. Sleep well. Your unconscious mind has everything under control. But our journey doesn't end here. There are still more layers to explore, more unconscious processes to understand as we delve deeper into the relationship between sound, sleep, and the hidden architecture of your mind. Your unconscious mind maintains what neuroscientists call predictive coding, a fundamental principle of how your brain processes all sensory information, including sound. Rather than passively receiving acoustic input, your unconscious mind constantly generates predictions about what sounds should occur next based on patterns learned from experience. Your brain then compares incoming sounds against these predictions, and it's the difference between prediction and reality, the prediction error, that captures attention and resources. Expected sounds require minimal processing, while unexpected sounds trigger intensive analysis and potential arousal. White noise is remarkable in this context because it's completely unpredictable at the micro level. Each moment is random, yet perfectly predictable at the macro level. It will continue exactly as it is. This paradox means your unconscious predictive systems can neither anticipate specific patterns nor be surprised by changes. The result is a kind of perceptual neutrality that requires minimal cognitive resources to process, freeing your unconscious mind for the essential work of sleep. During sleep, your unconscious mind also regulates fluid balance throughout your brain through something called the blood-brain barrier permeability cycle. This barrier, made of tightly joined cells lining your brain's blood vessels, controls which substances can move from your bloodstream into your brain tissue. The barrier's permeability changes across the sleep-wake cycle, becoming more selective during certain sleep stages. This rhythmic regulation ensures that your brain receives necessary nutrients during sleep while being protected from potentially harmful substances, all orchestrated by unconscious molecular processes. The relationship between sleep and the gut microbiome represents another fascinating unconscious connection. Your digestive system contains trillions of bacteria that exist in a symbiotic relationship with your body, and these bacteria follow circadian rhythms that are influenced by your sleep-wake cycle. During sleep, your unconscious mind alters gut motility and secretions, creating optimal conditions for certain bacterial populations to flourish. These bacteria, in turn, produce neurotransmitter precursors and signaling molecules that influence your brain function and mood. Poor sleep disrupts these microbial rhythms, potentially affecting mental health through this gut-brain axis. Your unconscious mind performs what might be called synaptic tag and capture during sleep, a process where recently strengthened synapses are marked with molecular tags that make them eligible for long-term stabilization. During the day, when you learn something new, temporary changes occur at specific synapses. But these changes are fragile, vulnerable to being overwritten by subsequent experiences. During sleep, your unconscious mind identifies these tagged synapses and delivers proteins and molecular machinery needed to make the changes permanent. This process requires specific patterns of neural activity that only occur during uninterrupted sleep stages. White noise protects this molecular memory consolidation by maintaining the sleep continuity necessary for the tag and capture process to complete. Each time sleep is disrupted, there's a risk that some tagged synapses won't receive the stabilization they need, potentially resulting in learning and memory being less robust than they could be. The phenomenon of sleep-dependent insight reveals how your unconscious mind can solve problems that stump your conscious efforts. Researchers have found that people who sleep after encountering a difficult problem are nearly 3 times more likely to discover a hidden rule or elegant solution compared to people who stay awake for the same duration. This isn't about being more rested and alert, it's about your unconscious mind literally restructuring its representation of the problem during sleep, trying different mental configurations until it finds one where the solution becomes obvious. This unconscious problem-solving appears to involve a specific form of memory reactivation where your sleeping brain revisits the problem space without the constraints and assumptions that limited your waking attempts. The brain regions involved in insight, particularly in the right hemisphere, show distinctive patterns of activity during sleep before moments of awakening with sudden clarity about a problem. White noise, by protecting the sleep stages where this unconscious restructuring occurs, supports your brain's natural problem-solving capabilities. Your unconscious mind also maintains vestibular processing during sleep, your sense of balance and spatial orientation. Even lying still in bed, your inner ear's vestibular system continues sending signals about your head position and movement to your brain. Your unconscious mind integrates this information with proprioceptive data from your body to maintain awareness of your position in space. This is why you don't typically fall out of bed even during active dreams or while shifting positions during sleep. Your unconscious vestibular monitoring keeps track of bed boundaries and prevents movements that would result in falling. Interestingly, this vestibular sense can be confused by certain sleep positions or by fluid shifts that occur during the night, sometimes leading to dreams of flying or falling, as your unconscious mind tries to make sense of ambiguous balance signals. The vertigo some people experience upon waking may result from temporary misalignment between vestibular signals and other spatial senses, a brief confusion in unconscious orientation systems as they transition from sleep to waking modes. The relationship between sleep and inflammatory processes throughout your body reveals another crucial unconscious regulatory system. During sleep, your unconscious immune system shifts from primarily defensive functions to restorative and repair functions. Inflammatory markers that help fight infections during the day are partially suppressed at night, while anti-inflammatory processes and tissue repair mechanisms are enhanced. This circadian modulation of inflammation is so important that chronic sleep disruption leads to sustained elevation of inflammatory markers, contributing to conditions like cardiovascular disease, arthritis, and metabolic disorders. Your unconscious mind coordinates this inflammatory rhythm through complex interactions between your circadian clock, your immune cells, and sleep-promoting neural circuits. White noise, by supporting more consolidated sleep, helps maintain the proper circadian timing of inflammatory processes, allowing your body to effectively balance defensive readiness during waking hours with restorative repair during sleep. The concept of sleep induction zones reveals precise windows in your circadian rhythm when falling asleep becomes dramatically easier. Your unconscious mind creates these zones through the coordinated timing of melatonin release, core body temperature decline, and reduction in arousal-promoting neurotransmitters. These zones typically occur in the late evening and, interestingly, during the mid-afternoon, which is why siestas are so naturally appealing in many cultures. Missing your evening sleep induction zone, perhaps by staying up past your natural bedtime, can result in a temporary surge of alertness as you pass through the zone and your circadian system shifts into a more wake-promoting phase. Your unconscious circadian clock creates these zones with remarkable precision, but environmental factors can either support or interfere with your ability to take advantage of them. Even during a sleep induction zone, when your biology is primed for sleep, environmental unpredictability can prevent the transition from occurring. White noise removes this barrier, allowing your unconscious timing systems to express themselves fully when conditions are optimal for sleep initiation. Your unconscious mind also performs emotional memory reconsolidation during sleep, a process distinct from simple memory consolidation. When you recall an emotional memory while awake, that memory becomes temporarily unstable, opened up for modification before being stored again. During sleep, your unconscious mind appears to spontaneously reactivate emotional memories and modify them, often reducing their emotional intensity while preserving their factual content. This is part of why traumatic memories naturally fade in emotional power over time, assuming you're getting adequate sleep. Without sufficient REM sleep for emotional reconsolidation, traumatic memories may retain their full emotional charge indefinitely. This process has profound implications for mental health. Therapies like EMDR for trauma may work partly by facilitating this natural reconsolidation process that normally happens during sleep. The reduction in norepinephrine during REM sleep creates a neurochemical environment where emotional memories can be processed without triggering full stress responses. White noise, by protecting REM sleep continuity, supports this natural emotional healing process that your unconscious mind performs every night. The phenomenon of microsleeps demonstrates how your unconscious mind can force brief moments of sleep even when you're trying to stay awake. During severe sleep deprivation, your brain will essentially override your conscious intention to remain alert, causing you to fall asleep for just a few seconds at a time. During these microsleeps, which you might not even consciously notice, your brain shows the electrical patterns of sleep, particularly theta waves. These brief moments represent your unconscious mind's emergency response to critical sleep debt, stealing tiny fragments of rest whenever possible. What's particularly concerning is that microsleeps can occur with your eyes open during activities like driving, creating obvious safety hazards. Your unconscious sleep systems become so desperate for rest that they're willing to take it even under dangerous circumstances. This demonstrates how powerful and non-negotiable sleep drive becomes when accumulated sleep debt is high. White noise can't prevent microsleeps if you're severely sleep deprived, but by supporting more efficient and restorative sleep when you do rest, it helps prevent the accumulation of sleep debt that leads to this dangerous state. Your unconscious mind also maintains thermoregulatory sleep onset, a fascinating relationship between body temperature and sleep initiation. The drop in core body temperature that facilitates sleep isn't just a consequence of sleeping, it's actually a trigger. Your unconscious mind monitors the gradient of temperature change, and a declining temperature gradient signals that conditions are right for sleep. This is why a warm bath before bed can promote sleep, not because the warmth itself is sleep-inducing, but because the rapid cooling that occurs after you get out of the bath mimics the natural temperature drop your unconscious mind associates with sleep onset. This temperature-sleep relationship is mediated by thermoreceptors throughout your skin and body that send continuous signals to your hypothalamus. Your unconscious thermoregulatory centers integrate this information with circadian timing signals to determine optimal sleep-wake states. Stress and environmental unpredictability can interfere with this thermoregulation, keeping your core temperature elevated even when it should be dropping. White noise, by reducing unconscious vigilance, allows your thermoregulatory systems to follow their natural circadian program more faithfully. The relationship between sleep and genetic expression reveals perhaps the most fundamental level at which your unconscious mind operates during sleep. Thousands of genes show circadian patterns of expression, being turned on and off according to time of day and sleep-wake status. During sleep, genes involved in protein synthesis, synaptic plasticity, and cellular repair are upregulated, while genes involved in energy metabolism and stress response are downregulated. This transcriptional program, controlled entirely by unconscious cellular machinery, ensures that your cells manufacture the right proteins at the right times to support either waking activity or sleeping restoration. Sleep disruption doesn't just affect how you feel, it literally alters which genes are being expressed in your cells, with cascading effects on protein production and cellular function. Studies of sleep-deprived individuals show widespread changes in gene expression patterns, affecting thousands of genes across multiple biological systems. Your unconscious mind is essentially orchestrating a genomic symphony during sleep, and environmental disturbances that fragment sleep disrupt this molecular music at the most fundamental level of biological organization. Finally, consider the phenomenon of dream lucidity, where you become conscious within a dream and can sometimes control dream content. This represents a unique state where aspects of conscious awareness emerge while you remain predominantly in REM sleep. Your unconscious mind is still generating the dream environment and running the show, but your prefrontal cortex, the seat of self-awareness and executive control, has partially come back online. Research shows that lucid dreamers show distinctive brainwave patterns, with increased activity in frontal regions that normally remain quiet during REM sleep. What makes lucid dreaming relevant to our exploration is that it demonstrates the fluid boundary between conscious and unconscious mental processes. Even during sleep, consciousness and unconsciousness aren't binary states but exist on a spectrum. The acoustic environment can influence where you fall on this spectrum, with disruptive sounds pushing you toward more wakeful awareness while stable sounds like white noise support deeper unconscious processing. For those interested in exploring lucid dreaming, white noise may actually be helpful by providing acoustic stability that allows you to maintain REM sleep while experimenting with bringing more conscious awareness into the dream state. As we conclude this extended journey through the science of white noise and unconscious processes, you now understand that sleep is far from a simple shutting down of consciousness. It's a dynamic, active process where your unconscious mind performs countless essential functions, from molecular housekeeping to emotional healing, from memory consolidation to creative problem solving, from immune enhancement to genetic regulation. White noise is a tool that works with these ancient systems, providing the environmental conditions under which they can operate as millions of years of evolution have optimized them to function. In choosing to sleep with white noise, you're not just masking annoying sounds. You're honoring the profound intelligence of unconscious processes, supporting the invisible work that keeps you healthy, clear-headed, emotionally balanced, and capable of learning and growing. Your unconscious mind has been your faithful guardian since before you were born, and it will continue its tireless work every night for the rest of your life. White noise simply ensures that this guardian can focus on internal restoration rather than external vigilance, allowing you to wake each morning as the best version of yourself that yesterday's experiences and tonight's unconscious processing can create. Rest well, and trust in the remarkable capabilities of your unconscious mind.